Ooh, what's going on, guys? It's Horse Beef here, and today I'm bringing you another video, and I got the top 10 most skilled fighters in the UFC to bring you guys here. Now, this is a subjective one, but it's also a little bit objective in my opinion because I feel like the eye test, right, to actually witness skill and know what you're looking at and be able to discern that this fighter has elite skill, it's something that not all UFC viewers have. I feel like the newer UFC fan base really just cares about numbers and record and all that, but today I'm focusing on purely the eye test and skill that I've witnessed personally that I consider to be at the highest level. So this top 10 is not going to be made up of the top 10 best fighters in the UFC or anything like that. This is just my personal opinion on who I think displays the highest level skill set. So let's just get right into it. At number 10, we're going to have a flyweight in Steve Erceg. Now, this one might be a little bit controversial because he's only fought 4 times in the UFC, but for in his 4th fight in the UFC to have put up such a great performance and arguably, in fact, very arguably, beat Pantoja and should have the title around his waist. I believe at this current moment in time, after rewatching that fight a few times, yeah, Steve Erceg undoubtedly did more damage in the majority of rounds in that fight and deserved to get the win. And I think that speaks volumes to his skill level because he didn't really engage in that dogfight. He made it technical, and whenever it was technical, man, Steve was able to piece up Pantoja on the feet and scrambled extremely well with him and showed his well-rounded attributes. And I believe to be able to scramble and negate the grappling of Pantoja the way that Erceg did on his 4th fight in the UFC, man. Pantoja is a bit of a veteran. He's very crafty on the ground, and Erceg dealt with him, dude. Did very, very well, got back up to his feet, and whenever the fight was on the feet, he took his opportunities, landed nasty shots, beautiful elbows. His left hook is one of the best in the game, and I just feel like based on the eye test, man, Erceg is one of the most skilled fighters in the UFC right now, 100%. Of course, that's my opinion, and based off my own metrics in my own head and what I consider to be the highest level of skill. And this isn't really based off of belts or wins or really anything like that. It's mostly just based off the eye test, right? Like a fighter like Khabib, for example, would not be on this list because he's more of a specialist. He's not that skilled in all areas, but he's extremely, extremely skilled in one particular area. This, for me, is more about the all-encompassing side of MMA and not just being a specialist in one area or another. And I do feel like Steve Erceg, while he is a specialist on the feet, especially with his hands, he has displayed very, very well-rounded skills and a high-level skill set in a majority of areas. And I think as his career goes on, we'll start to see more and more. And my opinion will be reaffirmed as time goes on because I believe that Steve Erceg will be champ someday, deserves to be champion right now, and he's one of the best fighters in the UFC currently. Now, number 9, we have Shavkat Rakhmonov, who I feel like is a given to be on this list at least somewhere on the top 10 for most skilled fighters. Excellent striker. I believe knocked out Carlton Harris with a spinning wheel kick as well, which is so impressive, and like that in and of itself is so rare to see. But then for him to be 18-0 with a 100% finish rate, I believe 10 submissions and 8 knockouts, so you have almost a 50-50 split there. So he's dangerous in all areas, and he just seems like he's able to find that finish. And any man who's able to find a finish against all of his opponents is supremely skilled. All right, because he's not a one-trick pony. He's not just like a Francis Ngannou who can just catch you on the chin once and knock you out, or a Khabib Nurmagomedov who can just take you down and drown you there. No, it doesn't matter where the fight is. This man will find you in some way, find your chin, right? Exploit you on the ground, take your back, choke you out. It does not really matter. Shavkat Rakhmonov is supremely skilled, and I believe the only area in which he's lacking is in his striking defense. And if he is to correct that, right, and keep that chin more tucked and keep that head up the center line while he's throwing shots and remain more defensively responsible and stop relying on his toughness and his chin, there's no doubt in my mind that Shavkat Rakhmonov can continue his undefeated streak and continue his finish streak and claim that belt within his next 2 fights. Next up on the list at number 8, man, we have Charles Oliveira, a fan favorite and one of my favorites in the UFC, and for me, one of the most skilled fighters in the UFC, man. At any range, Charles Oliveira is dangerous, has a great record to go along with it too, and he's displayed this high-level skill against the highest-level opponents at lightweight as well. Now, of course, he wasn't able to do it against Islam, but against Dustin Poirier, against Justin Gaethje, Beneil Dariush, the list does go on. he has displayed such a well-rounded skill set. The man is dangerous, man. He's so dangerous on the feet. He can crack you, has one of the best left hooks in the game, great right cross, great overhand as well. And within clinch range, you don't even want him there either because he has nasty knees to the body and elbows within the clinch as well. And whether you're on top of him or he's on top of you on the ground, there's equal threat, man. However which way it goes, there is not a single area where you are safe from Charles Oliveira, and he's displayed that, like I said, against the very highest level of MMA. So for me, Charles Oliveira, number 8, is a no-brainer. You could arguably even put him higher up on this list. And next up at number 7, man, we got Robert Whittaker, and I believe he is the most skilled fighter at middleweight, despite not being the champion. I know he got beaten by DDP, and I do think DDP is extremely skilled, but I believe that he gets by more on his physical attributes more than anything. The guy's extremely strong, extremely tough, and of course very well-rounded. But for me, Robert Whittaker is just more skilled. Like, based on the eye test, Robert Whittaker has some of the best striking at middleweight, and he's only gotten better in that regard. I feel like Robert recently has developed into the best version that we've ever seen of him, and he's goddamn terrifying to watch in there, man. His hands have improved. The guy has dynamite in his hands nowadays, not to mention an incredible kicking game, especially with that high kick. Of course, we all know it's his signature move, and he can wrestle with the best of them too, man. I know he did get ragdolled and handled pretty easily by DDP, but like I said, DDP is just a different type of fighter, and He's an anomaly. He's an enigma. It's really hard to describe Dricus du Plessis. But for me, Robert Whittaker has displayed over the course of multiple generations at this point that he is the best of the best that middleweight has to offer when it comes to skill and skill alone. The man can do it all. The only thing that I haven't really seen him display too much in his fights is some kind of a jiu-jitsu game, but grappling, striking, mixing it up. And I truly do believe that when it comes to mixing it up, he's one of the best in the UFC, and potentially the best at middleweight other than maybe a Dricus du Plessis. And coming in at number 6, we have Corey the Sandman Sandhagen. Now, this one could be a bit of a controversial one too, because he's lost to certain fighters, right, that I believe to be less skilled than him. But I just think that's down to that older version of Corey Sandhagen, who was pretty one-note and mostly just a striker. But I feel like recently he's displayed a well-rounded skill set to go along with his absolutely elite striking. Because I do believe he's one of the best strikers in the UFC. He has incredible hands, great kicking game, spinning attacks, flying knees. He can really do it all on the feet. And now, just recently, man, he's been showing the ability to, yes, lay and pray at times, but mostly control his opponents on the ground. And with that added to his tool bag, for me, it makes him one of the most skilled fighters in the UFC, and an absolute nightmare matchup for someone like a Sean O'Malley, because he can match him on the feet, I believe, maybe not in the power, but with the skill, right? He can slip shots. He's a good counter puncher as well. And I really do believe that Corey Sandhagen just passes the eye test with flying colors. And I've seen few fighters to display technical mastery the way that he has in pretty much all aspects of MMA. So for me, Corey Sandhagen is number 6. I know that'll be an unpopular pick there, but if you disagree, just be ready to have some kind of a comment war with me, because, man, I'm not backing down on this. I love me some Sandman, and he is one of the most skilled fighters in the UFC. And number 5, man, we got Tom Aspinall, and I understand that divisional skill gaps do exist. I really do understand that, believe me, but Tom Aspinall just represents the evolution of heavyweight MMA fighters. He's insanely fast, very technical on the feet, great on the feet, man. Like, insane power in his hands too. He's just able to stifle his opponents with the speed and power that he has. He's great in the clinch too, and I know he hasn't really had the opportunity to show his high-level skill set recently, at least in the aspect of mixed martial arts, right? He's mostly been showing that he's such an exceptional striker, but in the past we've seen that he's able to take his opponents down, control them there, and submit them there too, and against high-level competition like Volkov, for example, you know. So Aspinall, to me, just based off the fact that he is so elite for heavyweight, and on the eye test, he's one of the best heavyweights I've ever seen. I would say skill for skill, it's between him and a prime Cain Velasquez and maybe a prime Stipe Miocic. Those are probably the 3 most skilled heavyweights I've ever seen in my life, and I would give anything to see him fight a prime version of either 2 of those guys. I'm not really sure how it would go at this point, honestly, because Tom Aspinall has really just shown that he's next level when it comes to these heavyweights, and he represents a a different level of skill that we haven't really seen in that weight class for quite some time now. So for me, Tom Aspinall, like, I understand, yes, technically everyone underneath of him is probably more skilled than him on paper, but I feel like devaluing the skill of Tom Aspinall just for the sake of this divisional skill gap that we like to talk about so much is pretty unfair, and Tom Aspinall more than deserves to be number 5 on this list, in my opinion. And coming in at number 4, man, we have Ilia Topuria. This one's hard to argue with. I was originally going to put him above who's at number 3 right now, and that for sure would have stirred up some controversy, but I'm keeping him at number 4. Okay, because I feel like he has some of the best hands in the UFC to go along with some elite grappling, great calf kicks, right? He doesn't throw kicks to the body or kicks up top, but he throws everything that makes sense within his skill set, right? His kicks are for chopping down the calf, right? If he wants to attack the body, he'll use his incredible ability to just dig into the body with those left hooks, man. The way that he throws shots to the body, it's honestly second to none in the UFC. Maybe only Jose Aldo can match him with those left hooks to the body, in all honesty. Of course, but like, we haven't seen a whole lot of his grappling recently. Like we didn't have to see it come into play much against Josh Emmett or against Volkanovski, but before that, like Bryce Mitchell, we've always known that Bryce Mitchell, despite not being the greatest fighter in the UFC, he's a very good grappler, very dominant on the ground, and Topuria handled him with absolute ease on the ground. So for me, the well-rounded skill set of Topuria combined with the knockout power and just the finishing ability, no matter where that fight goes, and it's not even like he's just shown the ability to finish guys. He's also shown the ability to put on a masterclass against a high-level ranked competitor in Josh Emmett over the course of 25 minutes against a power puncher like him and remaining relatively unscathed. Just speaks volumes to how skilled Ilia Topuria is, and it wouldn't even surprise me at this point if Ilia goes on to reign at featherweight for quite some time. He's just not active, but that is a topic for another video. And at number 3, we have Alexander Volkanovski. Now, without a doubt, he deserves to be on this list within the top 3. As I said with Ilia Topuria, I was originally going to rank Topuria over Volk, but for me, man, it made sense for Topuria to beat Volk at that stage in his career, coming off a knockout loss the way he did against Islam, man. So circumstances lined up. It doesn't take away from the skill set of Volkanovski, because on the feet, man, in the first round, he was piecing up Topuria a little bit and doing very, very well. And I still think that, yeah, despite his chin deteriorating, it doesn't take away from the skill. His performance against Yair Rodriguez comes to mind, where he's doing so well in the feet, found him with that beautiful, I believe it was a check left hook, and then the flurry against the fence, the double leg takedown, and then the ground and pound, dude. Nobody does it like Volkanovski. I mean, that's not exactly true because he's number 3 on this list, but nobody does it like Volkanovski at featherweight. And I don't think anyone has done it like Volkanovski at featherweight when it comes to mixing it up the way that he does. Like, to be one of the best kickboxers, or one of the best strikers in the UFC, 100%, like one of the best strikers that even 145's ever seen, to also have such high-level grappling the way that he does, offensive grappling. Yes, he doesn't attack submissions really, but his ability to shoot for takedowns and set up takedowns, super, super high level. And nobody can tell me that Volkanovski is not one of the most high-level fighters in the UFC and one of the best fighters that we've ever seen in the octagon, baby. And at number 2, we have Peter No Mercy Yan, one of my favorite fighters of all time, and for a very specific reason. This man is... It's like watching a piece of art when Peter Yan performs in the octagon, because this man can do everything. To have some of the best boxing and overall striking in the UFC, right? To come into the UFC, a master of sport in boxing, and then also having an incredible variety of kicks in his arsenal, right? Spinning attacks, body kicks, leg kicks, high kicks as well. The way he uses his left hook to set up the lead body kick, the way he uses left hook to set up spinning attacks as well, the way he uses the uppercut to set up a double leg. He has such a wide variety, like one of the widest varieties of trips, takedowns, and throws in the UFC. Like, think about that. Think about a master of sport in boxing also developing one of the best takedown games. Like, I understand a lot of fighters are more dominant on the ground than him at better at scoring takedowns, but when you look at the setups and the variety in which he gets his opponents to the mat, it's incredible, man. The outside trip is a thing of beauty, as we all know, and as I've gotten into before, man, the way that he sets up his takedowns is honestly just second to none for me. The only aspect of MMA that we really don't see a lot from Peter Yan is the jiu-jitsu. So that's the only thing taking away from him. But the fact that he's such a high-level grappler on top of the striking just propels him to a different level for me when it comes to overall skill. And this is why I say, man, this video isn't about accolades and wins and all that, because Merab Dvalishvili, who I consider to be much less skilled, like objectively, right? Objectively a much less skilled fighter than Peter Yan, but Peter Yan was completely undone by him because of the stylistic differences, right? But Peter Yan, doesn't matter who he loses to, doesn't matter who he wins to. A Peter Yan performance is a sight to behold. Other than the Merab performance, of course, the man got absolutely demolished in that fight. I cannot deny that whatsoever. He got completely demolished. But I don't think it takes away from how skilled he is. For me, his skill set is supreme. And I didn't even get into the Muay Thai skills as well. In the clinch, he's disgusting. The elbows on the break, the knees. Just think about his knockout against Uriah Faber, the way he fucking landed the head kick off the break of the clinch. The man is just so dangerous everywhere. And he just styles on people too, which I have to give him credit for as well, because he's clean, he's technical, but then he uses that skill set to just put on stylistic performances on his opponents. And man, love me some Peter Yan, and he's number 2 on this list for a very good reason. And at number 1, we have Islam Makhachev, right? The obvious pick. Now, before his last 2 performances where he's shown very large improvements in his striking, I think maybe he would have been probably number 2, and I would have put Peter Yan number 1, right? But it's just so hard to deny at this point. Islam Makhachev is so good, right? He went toe-to-toe with Dustin Poirier on the feet and did extremely well and arguably outboxed him for a good part of that fight. So he has great hands. His defense is pretty good as well. I feel like he's improved big time in his defense. He has a very impressive kicking game. Yeah, he's pretty rudimentary with, like, he doesn't throw many spinning attacks or any spinning attacks at all, but he doesn't really have to because he is very effective with his kicking game, right? Good front kicks up the middle and good roundhouse kicks, and it's really all you really need on the feet. You don't need all that spinning shit. And Islam keeps it simple on the feet, but so effective. Very fast hands, and then not to mention, right, some of the best, if not, for me, the best grappling in the UFC, right? His Sambo game is just next level. The variety of takedowns, the throws in the clinch, and of course, his ability to find the submission. Now, that submission against Dustin Poirier, right, the ankle pick followed by the Darce, is one of the most impressive submissions I've ever seen, in all honesty. And he made me an instant fan in that fight, and I just can't deny it, dude. Islam Makhachev is the most skilled fighter in the UFC. Simply nobody can match him in that regard. The well-roundedness and the variety of ways that he's able to finish you and to display it against the highest level competition that there is to offer at lightweight to go along with that. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Islam Makhachev is number 1 on this list. And that is the full list, everyone. As always, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about my placement overall. If you agree, if you disagree, feel free to let me know. Remember, you guys are always welcome to disagree with me on this channel. I will not censor any of you, delete comments, none of that, because I'm always open to a healthy disagreement. And as always, like I always ask you guys, please give me ideas for future videos, whether that be tier lists or like top 10 lists like this, or any type of video whatsoever, and I will add it to the notepad and try and get to those for you guys down the road. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.